$4 a gallon, $5, $7. You pull up to the gas station and the price has changed since yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. Nobody behind the counter can explain it. The news keeps saying the same word over and over. Hormuz. This is why. The Strait of Hormuz, a strip of water between Iran and Oman, just 33 miles wide. That's shorter than most people's daily commute, and for the first time in recorded history, it is completely shut. No tanker has passed through in days. 20% of the world's oil supply, all of Qatar's natural gas, and billions of dollars in cargo. All of it funnels through this tiny gap between two coastlines, or at least it used to. Now, before you think this is just a temporary thing that'll blow over in a week, let me tell you a story. 1967, Egypt closes the Suez Canal during the Six-Day War. Everyone assumed it'd reopen within weeks, maybe a month. It stayed closed for 8 years. 15 cargo ships got trapped inside the canal with nowhere to go. They sat there so long that the desert sand buried them layer by layer. The crews, sailors from 6 different countries who were now stranded together with no rescue coming, did something incredible. They formed their own little floating nation. They held their own Olympic Games on the ship decks. They printed their own postage stamps. They celebrated each other's holidays and birthdays for years. 8 full years before that canal reopened, nobody came to get them. The world just moved on and found another way. Now the Suez is a narrow canal, easy to block. Hormuz is open ocean, 33 miles wide. Iran can't physically build a wall across it, but it didn't need to. A few drone strikes on tankers near the strait, and every insurance company on Earth refused to cover ships passing through. No insurance means no ship moves. Doesn't matter if the water is technically clear. If you can't insure a billion-dollar vessel, that vessel stays in port. The strait effectively closed itself, not with a wall, with paperwork. So the question nobody in power wants to answer honestly: what happens to the world, to your daily life, if this doesn't reopen? Let's start small and build from there. What if it stays closed for 1 week? Oil doesn't just go up, it spikes. $100 a barrel, $120, $150. Gas stations in some countries start changing prices twice in the same day. But here's what most people don't realize. Oil doesn't just power your car. It powers the truck that delivered your breakfast this morning, the cargo ship that carried your phone across the Pacific, the factory that made the shirt you're wearing right now, the fertilizer that grew the rice on your dinner plate. Oil is baked into the cost of literally everything. When it doubles in price, the price of everything else follows. Your grocery bill, your electricity, your bus fare, your heating, eventually your rent, all of it moves. And 80% of the oil that flows through Hormuz goes to Asia. Japan imports nearly all of its energy by sea. India gets over 60% from the Persian Gulf. South Korea, same story. For over 1 billion people across Asia, this isn't just an expensive week at the pump. This is a national emergency from day one. Governments are holding crisis meetings before the first weekend. Now, there are some backup options. Saudi Arabia has a pipeline that goes to the Red Sea, bypassing the strait. The UAE built another one that goes straight to the Gulf of Oman. But combined, these backup lines handle about 3 million barrels a day. Hormuz was moving 15 million. That's like replacing a 6-lane highway with a garden hose and pretending the traffic problem is solved. You technically have a trickle, but it's nothing close to enough. Okay. But 1 week is survivable. Markets panic, prices spike, people grumble and adjust. So what happens if it stays closed for a full month? This is where the dominoes start falling and they don't stop. By week 3, oil isn't even the headline anymore. It's everything oil touches. And oil touches everything in your life. Grocery shelves start showing gaps. Not because there's suddenly less food growing in the world, but because it costs twice as much to ship it. Countries that import most of their food, places like Singapore, Japan, even large parts of the Middle East, ironically, start running short on basics like cooking oil and grain. And here's what most people completely miss about the Strait of Hormuz. It's not just about oil. All of Qatar's liquefied natural gas exports travel through that strait, every single shipment. And there is no pipeline alternative for natural gas. It travels on specialized refrigerated ships, or it doesn't travel at all. Japan and South Korea run huge portions of their electricity grids on Qatari gas. By week 4, they're rationing power. Rolling blackouts, entire districts going dark on rotation, factories forced to shut down 3 or 4 days a week, not because anything is broken, because the fuel to run them simply isn't arriving anymore. Stock markets around the world are in free fall. Airlines are canceling international routes or tripling ticket prices overnight. Manufacturing across Asia slows to a crawl. Workers get sent home. And inflation, the slow, silent killer, is chewing through every economy on Earth. Everything costs more. But your salary hasn't changed. Central banks are trapped. They can't raise interest rates because the economy is already dying. They can't lower rates because prices are exploding. There is no good move. Sounds bad? What if it stays closed for 3 months? Now we enter survival mode. Countries start cracking open their strategic petroleum reserves. These are massive underground stockpiles that governments keep locked away for exactly this kind of emergency. The US stores about 400 million barrels in salt caverns underground. China has roughly 500 million, Japan about the same. That sounds enormous, right? Run the math. At 15 million barrels of lost supply per day, the world's combined strategic reserves last about 6 to 8 months. Every barrel pulled out today is one fewer barrel available next month. There is a countdown happening, and every government can see it. But here's who actually gets destroyed. The cruel mathematics of a crisis like this is who gets priced out first. Rich countries can outbid everyone for the remaining oil supply. They pay premium prices and keep their lights on. Poor countries cannot compete. Bangladesh already struggles with rolling blackouts in a normal year. Now it's in full-blown crisis. Pakistan declares a 4-day work week across the entire country to conserve fuel. Schools close weeks early. Hospitals run on backup generators, rationing which equipment stays powered. The Philippines rations electricity to homes, prioritizing hospitals and government buildings. This closure doesn't hit the world equally. It crushes the weakest nations first and slowly works its way up the ladder. Meanwhile, shipping has completely rerouted. Every vessel that used to pass through Hormuz now sails all the way around the entire continent of Africa. That adds 10 to 15 extra days to every single journey. More fuel burned per voyage, more ships tied up in transit at any given time, less total capacity available on the planet. Freight costs double and triple, and every cent of that cost increase ends up in the price tag of everything you buy. Still with me? What if it stays closed for a full year? At the 6-month mark, something bigger starts happening. The geopolitics of the entire planet have rearranged. Countries that don't depend on Hormuz suddenly hold all the cards. Russia, with pipelines running directly to Europe and China, becomes the single most important energy supplier on Earth. The United States, as both a massive producer and consumer, sits in the strongest strategic position of any nation. Canada, Norway, Brazil, suddenly more relevant on the world stage than they've been in decades. The biggest losers, ironically, the Gulf states themselves: Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar. Their entire economic model is built on pumping oil and gas out of the ground and shipping it through that strait. With Hormuz closed, their export revenue collapses. Construction megaprojects freeze mid-build. Cranes stand still against the skyline. Government spending programs get slashed. Millions of migrant workers face impossible uncertainty with no work and nowhere to go. And Iran, the country that caused the closure, Iran is destroying its own economy right alongside everyone else's. Nearly all of Iran's oil exports travel by sea through or near the Strait of Hormuz. By blocking the strait, Iran cut off its own income stream. Every month it stays closed, Tehran bleeds money just like its neighbors. The weapon became a wound. But here's the twist that nobody sees coming. Around month 8 or 9, something shifts across the world. Every single government on Earth is now treating energy independence like a matter of national survival. Not a campaign promise, not a 10-year plan, a right-now survival priority. Solar panel production goes into overdrive. Wind farm construction accelerates to wartime speed. Nuclear energy projects that were stuck in bureaucratic limbo for years get emergency approval overnight. Investment in renewables doesn't just increase, it explodes. The oil crisis of the 1970s gave the world fuel-efficient cars and smaller engines. A full year of Hormuz closure could do something far bigger. It could push the entire planet toward clean energy faster than every climate summit, every international agreement, every street protest combined. Not because the world wanted to change, because it had no choice. Day 365, one full year. The world that comes out the other side looks nothing like the one that went in. Global GDP has dropped 3 to 5%. That's a recession deeper than 2008. Trillions of dollars evaporated from the global economy. Millions of jobs gone. Entire supply chains permanently rerouted to paths that didn't exist 12 months ago. Political alliances rewritten. But new infrastructure exists now. Emergency pipelines crossing deserts, new deepwater ports on the Gulf of Oman and Red Sea, renewable energy grids powering cities that used to run purely on Gulf oil. The world was forced to evolve, not gracefully, not cheaply, but permanently. And no nation on Earth will ever again stake its entire economy on a 33-mile strip of water controlled by someone else. Now, remember that gas pump from the very beginning of this video? The price spinning upward with no explanation? Now you know what's actually behind the number. It was never just about gas. It was about a choke point, a war, and a chain of consequences that reaches into the daily life of every single person watching this right now. And here's the part that should keep you thinking tonight. This is not a hypothetical scenario. The Strait of Hormuz is closed right now, today, as you're watching this. Oil is above $100 a barrel. Ships are rerouting around Africa. Countries are tapping their reserves. The timeline we just walked through, we are already on it, somewhere in the first few chapters. The only question left, the one that nobody on Earth can answer with certainty, is how far down this road we go. If this changed how you see the news, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.